The New York Knicks are certainly rolling the dice. They yesterday announced. Now you'd have to Swag. I'm going to go to you on this one, not so much Nemec.
Okay.
How in your life do you, if a friend of yours reaches out and says, Swaggy J, I've been relieved of my duties at my job. Is that a firing, or does relieved of duties mean something different? Is that a respectful way of saying being fired? What's the difference?
I guess it depends. Well, there are circumstances. Like if you work for a company that's going through like a merger and there's a reduction in force, they're just
that's a layoff.
Getting rid of positions or whatever.
Sure.
And says relieved of duties. But no, if you were...
So he was fired.
He was fired.
Okay, thank you. I kind of thought the same thing, but I thought they were trying to be respectful with the wording publicly when they announced this. The Knicks, after 5 seasons with Tibs, have moved on. Tim Bontemps, I thought, said it really well. Hard to justify firing a coach who won 4 playoff series in 3 years when the Knicks had won a single playoff series the prior 22 years.
I hear that. I agree with that. However, can we get to the however?
However,
isn't Tibbs' whole thing that he's kind of the Jim Harbaugh of basketball? This like red-ass coach who is very, very, very intense, very, very, very structured, and his welcome runs thin very quickly, who spent 5 years with the Knicks. And oh yeah, by the way, his big thing is that he's this like defensive savant. And they very likely want to build this team around Brunson and Cat, 2 defensive liabilities. So if you're the Knicks, so already you're like not totally functioning as an adult, right? And you go, okay, his system doesn't totally fit with a couple of our key pieces. He's been here 5 years. That's an eternity in the NBA. Maybe it's time to shake things up. I think this is pretty poorly timed considering they made the Eastern Conference Finals, but I can see the thinking in a vacuum that way.
Well, how did we get here? Chris Mad Dog Russo, a staple in New York media for a very long time. He has a theory of who decided to fire Tibs.
And I don't want to hear everybody say, well, he's one of these guys who takes you to a certain level, but he can't take you all the way. Oh, nonsense. Take you to a certain level. Anybody who knows anything about basketball knows that Indiana had better players and more of them than the Knicks did. Much more of them. Much more of them. And everybody knows who follows, who sees, who watches the NBA, knows if Anthony Towns or OG make a free throw, or if God didn't let the ball bounce in with Halliburton's 3 or 2 at the end of game 1, the Knicks would have won that series. But this is about Dolan. Don't let anybody hear you. Don't let anybody in America hear you say, this is Leon Rose. Nonsense. Nonsense. Rose and Thibodeau are tight. He's his agent. This has got nothing to do with... You think Rose wanted to fire Tom Thibodeau after he got to a conference final? But Rose doesn't have any power there. Dolan does. He sits on the baseline with a dopey hat on, thinking that he knows something about... He wouldn't even know who George Mikan is. He knows nothing. He's there because his old man was a brilliant businessman, and he took over. That's what this is all about.
I got to be honest. If George Mikan passed me on the street right now, came back from the dead, I don't know if I'd 100% be like, that's George Mikan. I don't know if I could. I've seen him. I've seen, whatever. But, I don't know if he passed me. I go, that's George Mikan. But, look, I think he's right here. And what I find interesting about this, look, you tell me the Knicks fire Tibbs if they lose to the Pacers. I'm not going to sit here and call you an idiot. I'm not going to say, oh, it's impossible. But the idea that this was a certainty, it's just patently not true. I mean, it was a possibility, yes, but it being a certainty. If it was a certainty, everybody and their mom that covers that league on a high level would have told you if they don't win, he's gone. Nobody did. Not a single one. There were people suggesting maybe it's Tibbs, because we don't know what the roster's going to be. But it wasn't a certainty. And so I think you sit here now and you say, all right, even if you think Mad Dog is being Mad Dog, is he right, though? If the Knicks don't blow game 1, there is a real idea that series, maybe it swings their way, okay? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But it didn't go their way. They blew that game. And I find organizations that operate on that level, I find them a little unserious. Now, they are a serious franchise. They've made good moves, except the Bridges one. I think the Bridges one was terrible. I thought that was such an overpay for such a, I don't know, middle of the road, slightly upper echelon role guy. That was crazy. But if they win that game and win the series, he's not fired. So you based all of your decision on coaching because they blew that 14-point lead. That's not how you make decisions.
I hear you.
Especially those big of a decision.
I'm playing a little devil's advocate here.
Great, let's do it.
Okay. Brunson's dad is on this staff.
Yes, he is. Rick Brunson.
I'm not 100.
Plays are great.
I'm not 100% sure that Brunson is 100% bought in with Tibs. Mikal Bridges wasn't.
I had a Franz Rick Brunson card in one of my loaves of bread as a child.
Did you really?
I couldn't have been more disappointed with the draw I got.
Rick Brunson play with Temple in an NCAA regional in Seattle.
How about that? God, we're old.
Are we just sharing stuff? My grandpa went to school and went to DePaul at the same time as George Mikan.
Really?
Are we making stuff up or is it real?
No, I really pulled.
I really saw Temple
sharing
play
real
a West
stuff.
regional.
I know. I was kidding. Yes.
No, I had a Rick Brunson card out of my Franz
My
loaf.
grandpa really went to DePaul. He grew up in Chicago. Went to DePaul at the same time as George Mikan.
There you go.
And never went to a basketball game because he was a music major and didn't really care.
Okay. All right.
I was like,
what were you saying though?
I don't remember. I think that Mikal Bridges wasn't all the way bought in. I think Jalen Brunson wasn't all the way bought in. I think there's
Brunson had a quote after the Eastern Conference Finals. He backed Tibs.
Yeah.
They did the opposite of what he said.
But I think that was public movement based on, listen, Zach Lowe, Bill Simmons, I've listened to a lot of podcasts this week. They've all kind of broken it down. And all of them kind of implied internally some of the players weren't behind Tibs. That the rotations were a little tight. They were playing too many minutes. That some of that, they had more players. Indiana just had more players. Had to do with the fact that the Knicks kind of abbreviated the rotation because that's the way Tibs likes to do things. And so some of that like lack of bench depth has to do with the fact that Tibs doesn't really like developing bench guys in the regular season or the postseason. Mm-hmm. The switch up of the starting lineup for a guy who's just absolutely rigid in his rotations and doesn't want to hear it from other people reeked of desperation. They were, and it's a little bit revisionist history.
You thought that was a desperation move and not I got to change something up because it's not working move?
Because we're not getting it done.
Yeah.
I think if it comes from someone else, I don't think it does reek of desperation. I don't think you go, okay, well, he's switching it up. Why not? It's change up in the series. We need more rebounding, offensive rebounding in the first quarter, and then Mitchell Robinson sets the franchise record for offensive rebounds in the first quarter with 5 in that game that he started. I get it. However, Tibs is not that guy. Tibs is like, we're going with this. This is who we are. This is our identity. These are our 7 or 8 guys. And the fact that he did that had more to do with the fact that they were significantly, that starting lineup was a significant minus throughout most of the playoffs playing together. That's Tibbs' construction. So whether you say Tibbs doesn't totally fit with this roster because they were a minus as a starting lineup through a lot of the playoffs, or you say, hey, he panicked, or you just say flat out, this group doesn't work together. I don't care how you splice it up. Something had to give. So you say, okay, Cat doesn't fit because he's a defensive liability. Maybe with a different coach that works differently. The other piece here, and I think it matters, there's an off chance with the way the NBA works, and we do secrets and whispers when we're not supposed to. There's an off chance the Knicks have a play here.
Oh, I want to get into that. I think they make... It's being reported that they're gonna cast a wide net here. I think they have an idea of who they want.
Oh, no. I don't mean that at all.
What do you mean?
I mean, I think the Knicks might say, we kind of know that Giannis or KD wants to be here.
Well,
and they want to be here on terms that, now, do I think that KD takes this team to a championship with the pieces they have to give away this year? Probably not. But if I'm James Dolan and you go, hey, Cat doesn't really play defense, not really a Tibbs guy anyway, not really an R guy anyway, can we do a Cat and something for KD next year and we have KD? But KD doesn't want to play with Tibbs. I could see James Dolan thinking that makes sense. Giannis wants out of Milwaukee. But he doesn't want to play for Tibbs.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, look, the Kevin Durant part, we can get to this because the coaching search and how it's all going to go and who has the power and Man, again, you're kind of proving my point. If that is the thinking for them, you are telling me you're an unserious franchise. You're going to do this big mix-up in these big trades, and you're going to do it for a guy that, quite literally, if Steph Curry and the Warriors don't sign him, I don't know if he has a ring. And so far, the track record hasn't gone well for Kevin Durant teams. They don't make the playoffs or they get swept. And you kind of look back and you go, man, there's a lot of coaching bodies behind you right now. I wonder if there's a common theme here.
The trail of dead head coaching bodies.
It's insane. It is. I think it is actually insane to operate on we're going to make this move because Kevin Durant might want us now, even though he didn't want us before, and he doesn't like your current head coach.